Good afternoon, everyone. This will be my video lecture in Chameleon Values and Norms. No? Today is December 14, 2022. It's a Wednesday afternoon. And as is customary, I'd like to say my usual reminders. No? Reminder number one will be this. No? Our last video lecture, or the last video lecture that I will be having in CVN, will be on January 4, 2023. In as much as you are busy with your intrams starting tomorrow, no? So we will not be able to meet on Friday, this Friday. So the next video lecture will be on January 4, 2023. It's a Wednesday also, no? And then the second announcement is that your final examination will of course be the week after, no? So if our next meeting will be January 4, 2023, so the final examination will be announced on that date also. On January 4, I will be announcing the exact date of your final examination, and preferably it will be the week after, no? The week after January 4. No, and of course, when we talk of the final examination, the coverage of the exam will be from the very start, from the very beginning, up to what we'll be discussing on January 4, 2023. So today, we start a new topic because Unit 5, we already finished that on shared values. So for today, we start a new topic, which is Unit 6 or Chapter 6, which is on ethics. Now, when we talk of ethics, what comes to your mind? No? Of course, ethics would have something to do with the concept of what is good and what is bad. So I will write it down, no? So when we talk of ethics, no, this term, when we talk of ethics, we are talking about the concept of what is good or what is bad, no? What is good or what is bad, no? So ethics, the other term for ethics is what we call moral philosophy, no? Moral philosophy. So these two terms are synonymous. When I talk of ethics, I'm talking of this kind of philosophy, moral, no? Moral philosophy. Now, when we talk of ethics, this came from the Greek word, coming from the Greek word ethos, no? Ethos, Greek. This is a Greek, meaning from Greece, no? Which means what? When we talk of ethos in Greek, we are talking about character, or we are talking about one's personality. No? One's personality or one's character, ethos, coming from the Greek word. But as I told you earlier, when we talk of ethics, this is the kind of philosophy that we're talking about, moral philosophy. So there is a saying that what is ethical is also moral, no? Because these two terms are synonymous, no? Ethical and moral, or morally upright. No? We call that morally upright. So in short, when we talk of ethics or something that is ethical, we are talking about the concept of what is good. And of course, the opposite would be bad. We're talking about something that is right or just, no? We are talking about something that is virtuous, or something that is evil, no? Something that is right or something that is wrong. So you see that the opposite, no? The opposite, good or bad. No, the concept of good or bad, the concept of right or just, the concept of virtuous or evil, right or wrong. Clear? Do you have somebody already, or somebody whom you know who is morally upright or ethically upright? Well, of course, we'll be discussing that later on, no? So how do we judge if a person is morally right or ethically upright? Well, we go back to what we call the different theories on why or how ethics came into being, no? But first, before we go to the different theories as to how ethics originated, the concept of ethics originated, I would say that ethics will of course be what? When we talk of ethics in general, we are talking about what is bad or what is good or what is bad. No? So the issues, good or bad, so the issues covers, say for instance, in contemporary times, no? Issues in contemporary times, meaning now, no? In contemporary times, we are talking about, say for instance, abortion. For instance, is abortion good or bad? Because some countries, of course, allow or it's legal to have abortion, or say for instance same-sex marriages, no? Same-sex marriages or divorce, for instance. These are the issues where we are confronted with what we call ethics, no? Abortion, same-sex marriages, or even the use of contraceptives. Use of contraceptives. These are just examples, no? These are just examples. Or mercy killing, for instance. Mercy killing. What's mercy killing? Well, of course, you take off already the dextrose or whatever is no longer necessary for the life of an individual. Or, for instance, suicide also. No? So these are just examples of the issues covering ethics. No? So if we want to analyze if these issues are ethical or not, well, of course, we go back to the concept of ethics. But one thing that is very difficult, no, for this concept, one thing that is very difficult to ascertain for ethics is that when we talk of this concept of good or bad, no, what comes to your mind? When we talk of these concepts, they are what we call subjective in nature. No? Subjective in nature, meaning we cannot actually define with precision or with exactitude what is good or what is bad. Correct? You understand? That's why it is subjective in nature, no? When we say good or bad, we could not define this with precision or exactitude. No? Meaning, hindi natin kayang i-define ito exactly or with precision. Neither can we define bad, what is bad. We cannot define it exactly because these concepts of what is good or what is bad are subjective in nature. Now, when we talk of ethics now, the coverage, of course, would have something to do with what? Well, of course, I mentioned already the concepts, no? Or the notions of what is good or bad, no? So we talk about this. We also talk about what we call it. We talk about rights and responsibilities, no? Or rights or your obligations and responsibilities. Of course, we also talk about how to live a good life. No? We also talk about that. We also talk about, aside from how to live a good life, we also talk about moral decisions. No? Moral decisions. How are we going to decide on a certain issue? Is it good or is it bad? No? Because we are talking about something that is ethical or moral philosophy. Now for today, I'd like to begin with some of the theories on how ethics started or on how ethics began. No? So we talk about the different theories on ethics. Of course, the first one, no? The first is what we call supernaturalism. No? Supernaturalism. So it's supernatural, something that began out of supernatural, meaning out of this world, because it's not natural, supernatural. So when we talk about supernaturalism, we talk about God and religion. So ethics came into being because of our concept about God and also our religion. Because we're talking about something that is supernatural. Now, supernatural meaning it's out of this world. So how do we say, so when we talk of supernaturalism, by the way, the concept of ethics, no, the concept of ethics cannot be divorced with what? The concept of ethics cannot be divorced with the concept of faith or religion. They are intertwined. No? They are intertwined. So when we talk of naturalism, I repeat, we cannot divorce or we cannot dissociate ethics from our concept of faith and religion. Now, in short, this theory would tell us that the basis or the sources of moral principles, beliefs, and ideas would emanate or would come from God Himself or from religion. And of course, what is morally right would be following what is God's will. No? Clear? What God wants us to be or what God wants us to do. No? That's God's will. No? So we cannot divorce ethics in supernaturalism. We cannot divorce ethics from what we call faith or religion. And how do we know if it is God's will that we have to do? No? Of course, there are four sources of that will comprise what we call God's will. What are those? Well, the first is the Bible. The second, of course, is the church, where we are attending Mass or service. Of course, prayer. And finally, reason. So, these components would tell us now what God wants us to do, or what God wants us to be. So, following God's will came from the concept of supernaturalism, and following God's will is what we consider as ethical in supernaturalism. Clear so far? Now the second theory, that's for supernaturalism. The second theory that I'd like to discuss on how the concept of ethics came into being is what we call intuitionism. No? Intuitionism. No? Intuition. No? So when we talk of intuitionism, we talk about our mind, or what we call conscience. Diba? Conscience. So this theory on intuitionism will tell us that, well, according to this theory, adults or adult human beings have what we call a moral intuitive mind. No? A moral intuitive mind. So what do we mean by this? We have a moral intuitive mind, which means, no, this theory would tell us that we know as adults or as individuals, we know what is ethical based on our mind alone. No? No one can dictate us because we know as individuals or as adults, we know what is ethical or what is good. What is good and what is bad by using, of course, our mind alone, no? So this theory is usually embraced or advanced by non-religious, no? Non-religious people, no? So we talk of the mind or our conscience as the basis of saying that an action is ethical or moral because of what we call the moral intuitive mind. We have this mind which is morally intuitive. Okay? So that is the second theory. And of course, the third theory as to how ethics came into being, the concept of ethics came into being, is what we call, of course, this theory, the third theory, is what we call consequentialism. Consequentialism. So when we talk of this, coming from this term, consequence, no? The consequence of what? Of our actions. No? Of our actions. So according to this theory, what is ethical or what is moral will be based on what? Is based on the results. No? The results of what? Of our own actions. No? So I repeat, according to this theory, the third theory, it says that what is ethical or what is moral is based on the results of our actions. Results of our actions. That's why it's called consequentialism, no? And what is ethical or moral? Of course, what is ethical or moral according to this theory is an action that produces what? Positive results. And what is positive results? Something that is good for the greatest number of people. No? So number of people. So this is the basis of saying, according to this theory, that an action is ethical or moral when it produces positive results, meaning what is good, no? What is good for the greatest number of people. That's why there is a cliche here for consequentialism that doing an action, the greatest good for the greatest number of people, for the greatest number of people. No? So here, an action is ethical or moral according to this theory when it produces the greatest good, no? For the greatest number of people. That's consequentialism. Of course, the next three theories, the remaining three theories, I will be discussing that next time during our meeting on January 4, 2023. Okay? So I'd like you to have this assignment. No, this is assignment number 8, I believe. No, so I am giving you this assignment, which is assignment number 8. Clear? Is it okay? Are you still okay after this semester? No, chameleon values and norms. So this one, the one that I will assign now, will be assignment number 8, which I'd like you to put in your portfolio of assignments. No? So number 1 is, what is teleological ethics? Teleological ethics. No? That's number 1. Number 2, what is, when I say you have to explain what is, no? Explain in your own words. What is deontological ethics? Deontological ethics. Okay? Explain also in your own words, no? When I say what is, of course, I'd like you to explain this in your own words by giving also examples. And then number 3, what is virtue ethics? Okay? So I'd like you to explain this in your own words so that you understand what theological ethics means, what deontological ethics means, and what virtue ethics means. This is your assignment number 8. Okay, so there are 2 more assignments that I will be giving. One will be on January 4th so that we complete the 10 assignments that I will assign to you, which you have to put in your portfolio of assignments. Now, is there any question? Then if you have any questions, you can just message me and I will be ready to answer you anytime. Okay? So this is all for today. Good afternoon, everyone.